Every single night, he used to dream of escaping his boring reality. He wanted so much to get Ice Guide into a fantasy world that he quit his job and searched all corners of the world to find it. And then, one day, his prayers were answered. This was not the dream he wanted. This was a nightmare. He got his fantasy world all right. But he was reborn as a barbarian named Cattle and thrown into a frozen hell called the White Wasteland, filled to the brim with all kinds of OP monsters. And for years, he's been trapped in this icy prison by a mysterious system, its message always the same. Quest incomplete. Well, today is just a typical Tuesday in the White Wasteland. Two barbarians stomp down on a giant scorpion monster and rip it apart. Then, our main character approaches calmly. A flash of purple light, he slashes the rest of the monsters to pieces. Only barbarians would be proud of being so ignorant. He sighs. What's ignorant? Can you eat it? The girl asks. Before he can even answer, they start chomping down on the foul, stringy monster meat like it's a 5-star meal. He's in total disbelief. Didn't I literally just tell you that thing would kill you if you ate it? It's been less than a week and here you are again, he growls. The girl and the bald dude give a proud thumbs up. It was a most noble challenge. Suddenly, the bald guy's face freezes. He starts convulsing and foaming at the mouth. He collapses and green bile erupts from his mouth. The girl panics, slapping him over and over. Watching this whole disaster unfold, Cattle just looks away. I'm going for a walk, he mutters. Bro has had enough of this life. Meanwhile, somewhere in the wasteland is a group of mercenaries. One is whining about the cold. Another one complains that crossing the wasteland is a suicide mission no matter the paycheck. The captain just shuts him down. You all knew what you signed up for, didn't you? Yeah, but we didn't know it would be this bad. The merc shoots back, shivering. Inside the warm carriage, an old butler listens to their bickering. He clears his throat and turns to his passenger, asking, Are you all right, my lady? A beautiful woman with blue hair, Melina Akasha, just smiles back. Yes, I am fine. He turns back to the mercs outside. They're just rude. But Melina says, Don't be so harsh. They're the only ones who would take this job. She looks out with concern. Shouldn't we let them inside? They look like they're freezing. No, the butler says firmly. My lady, you forget the legends of this place. Melina goes quiet. The monsters, you mean? The butler shakes his head. Worse. Do you remember the story of the emperor, the only person to ever return alive from this frozen hell? He rambled like a madman about all the monsters he'd seen, from giant serpents to earthquake-causing bears. But his final, desperate warning was this. The true danger wasn't the monsters. It was the barbarians. The butler just dismisses it. It's only a legend, of course. But Melina isn't so sure. Many of the monsters he described were later proven to be real. And yet, the butler laughs, no one has ever actually seen a barbarian. Melina has to admit he has a point. Suddenly, the mercenary captain yells out, Everyone halt. There's something out there, he says, his partner asking what he sees. They squint into the blizzard at a lone figure. I can't make it out. The captain's eyes widen. I've got good news and bad news, he says grimly. Just spit it out. Another merc yells. The captain replies, The good news is, it's small. The bad news, it's heading right for us. Instantly, everyone is on high alert, staring into the storm with fear and confusion. The captain draws his sword, his face tense as the figure gets closer and closer. He can finally see it clearly. It's not a monster. Is that a person? The man keeps walking, his white hair blowing and his bare chest showing off a warrior's build. It's Kettle, he stops, and his glowing purple eyes stare them down. Mercenaries snap to attention, completely stunned as the man approaches. They can't believe it, a barbarian, just like the legends. But dude just smiles. He went for a stroll because he got bored with his people. He didn't expect to bump into /U 2026 this. He flashes a charming smile and introduces himself. He is Kettle, the Ashen Barbarian. I'm pleased to meet you. Kettle sizes them up, asking if they're merchants with hired muscle. He offers some friendly advice. Turn back now, but he already knows they won't listen. Then, his eyes drift over to the carriage. He knows someone's inside. The captain starts to panic, but Kettle just grins and makes a shocking offer. I'd like you to hire me. The mercs are floored. Kettle clarifies that he wants to be their guy through this wasteland. The captain cautiously asks if he is an enemy. Kettle just smiles. If I were, you would all be dead by now. The threat hangs in the air, leaving the guards pale and totally speechless. The leader knocks on the carriage and asks his lady if she heard all that. Lena says she heard everything. The captain leaves the final decision up to her. She asks the most important question. What would happen if we tried to fight him? Looking at the imposing barbarian, the captain gives his honest assessment. I would definitely not recommend it. After a tense pause, Melina makes her call. Understood. Tell him we accept his offer. The captain walks back to Kettle and delivers the news. She agreed. Kettle's eye glows as a smile spreads across his face. Well now, that is great news. He takes a few steps forward, scaring the bejesus out of the mercs. Now he needs to talk to the real boss. The captain warns him not to pull anything, but Kettle just meets his glare with a confident grin. The captain has no choice but to lead him to the carriage. He shuts down their protests, saying their employer already agreed and fighting Kettle would be suicide. Inside, the butler is completely freaking out, but Milena tells him to calm down. Then, a knock comes from the door, and Kettle's voice rings out, "May I come in?" The butler lets out a high-pitched shriek, but Milena calmly replies, "Yes, come in." Outside, Kettle gives one last triumphant smile. His plan worked perfectly. The old butler is sweating bullets, looking absolutely terrified. Across from him sits Kettle, an absolute unit, just chilling with his arms crossed. The barbarian's voice is surprisingly calm as he speaks. He just tells the old man to relax. He promises he has no intention of harming him, but the butler isn't buying it for a second, inwardly screaming, "Don't lie to me." Meanwhile, the girl is just staring in shock. She can't believe a legendary barbarian is right in front of her. She manages to stammer out a greeting, and he just hits her back with a cool, "The pleasure is mine." Our guy looks out at the blizzard and notes how surprisingly warm it is inside. The blue-haired woman explains it's all thanks to magic, and he's genuinely intrigued. This guy's never seen real magic before. Looking back outside, he warns them that their chances of making it through are slim, but then he drops this line, "That's why I will protect your lives." However, there's a catch. He tells them there's just one condition. She nervously asks him what he could possibly desire. With a smile, he reveals his price. It's not gold or power. He just wants information about the world outside the snowfields. She is completely floored by this. Information. That's it. He just nods, knowing it's a pretty sweet deal for her. And yeah, what other choice does she have? She reluctantly agrees. He's pleased with her answer and asks for her name. She introduces herself formally as Melina of House Akasha. He grins right back, introducing himself as Kettle. The deal is sealed. We get a flashback to Kettle's previous life. He was a total fantasy nerd surrounded by games and books. Then one day, BAM. He just woke up as a barbarian in this frozen wasteland. There was no time for an existential crisis. The place was freezing and crawling with insane monsters. So he did what any MC would do. He became the leader of his tribe, fighting day in and day out just to survive and escape the snowfield. But every single time he tried to leave, a system window would pop up. It told him the quest was incomplete. Just as he was about to lose all hope, people from the outside finally started showing up. And that's when it hit him. The world beyond this snowy prison was the exact fantasy world he'd always dreamed about. From that moment on, he wasn't just surviving, he was grinding. He started completing quest after quest with one goal, getting out. Which brings us back to the present. You can see why information from outsiders like Melina is pure gold to him. Unfortunately, every other human he's met has either attacked him on sight or just gone completely insane from the cold. So yeah, he's just relieved to finally be having a civilized conversation for once. But then he changes the subject, noting that he can tell they're transporting a lot of weapons. He tells her he can literally hear the steel clanging in the wagons. The man has got super senses. So he cuts right to the chase and asks if there's a war going on in the outside world. Melina confirms it. The Empire and the Kingdom are at war. Kettle figures the outside world is not so peaceful after all. She explains the Empire has way more soldiers. But the Kingdom is holding on thanks to two things. Sword masters and a hero. Kettle's ears immediately perk up. Hero. A sword master. He needs to know what kind of power they have. Melina realizes he has no clue what she's talking about. She asks if he has ever heard of mysteries. So Melina breaks down the power system. It's all based on something called mystery. Only a tiny fraction of people can actually use this power and they're ranked into 5 tiers. First up is third rate. These guys can basically just sense the power, not really use it. Then you have second rate. This is where you can actually start using the power for real. Next up is first rate. These are your standard knights and mages manifesting their power as mana or aura. But after that, things get absolutely insane. The next ranks are for people who have broken past human limits. You've got the transcendent beings who can literally split the heavens. The Swordmaster is one of these monsters. And at the very top, the hero. A legendary being who doesn't just use power, they change the world itself. She finishes up by saying that even being a lowly third rate makes you a big shot in a small town. And after hearing all of this, Kettle's response is simple and absolutely epic. He just says, "I want to meet them." Melina is completely stunned. Did he just say he wants to go meet a god-tier being? But Kettle is dead serious. He's been trapped in this frozen hell for who knows how long, just trying to survive. He's stuck in his dream fantasy world, but it is a prison. His only real goal is to finally see what is on the other side. His expression hardens with pure determination. He declares that he really wants to get out of this place. Then he corrects himself with a confident smirk. No, he must get out. As the carriage rumbles on, Melina finally asks the question on her mind. Is he really the barbarian? He doesn't deny it, pointing out that she clearly seems to have heard of him. She confirms it, telling him she knows him from the legend. Now Ketal is the one who's completely surprised. There is a legend about him. Melina can't believe it. How could he possibly not know his own legend? Ketal just laughs, remembering some crazy knight he met once. So that guy was the emperor, he chuckles. He plays it cool though, smirking and telling her the legend is probably correct. But he quickly brings the conversation back to the important stuff. Why are they hauling all these weapons across a frozen wasteland? She clearly does not want to answer, stammering for a response. But Ketal's stare is intense, and she finally cracks. Her family is desperate for money. Turns out her family used to be rich merchants, but they got sabotaged by rivals and are now drowning in debt. Ketal's brain works at light speed. He immediately deduces she is selling weapons to the kingdom for their war against the empire. His logic is flawless. The empire has a huge army, so they do not need weapons. The kingdom, however, must be desperate for them. He notes that high demand and low supply means a huge price tag, big enough for her to risk her own life. He keeps going, guessing that her territory must border the empire, forcing her to take this completely insane route. Melina is just speechless. All she can do is confirm that he's 100% correct. She's totally shaken. The legends painted him as a mindless brute, but this guy is an absolute genius. She wonders who he really is. But before he can answer, the carriage jolts to a stop. Then, a blood-curdling screech. While everyone else panics, Ketal remains perfectly calm. He knows exactly what is happening. They have got company. Out of nowhere, a monstrous black slime erupts from the snow. The entire party just freezes in absolute terror. Ketal just squints at it, but Melina confirms their worst fears. This thing is a legendary monster, straight from the history books. She explains this snowfield is a graveyard for powerful warriors. The few who survived all warned of this exact beast. But Ketal just grins like an absolute madman. He says, of course, they're chewy and make decent snacks. Melina's jaw just hits the floor. You eat them? He tells her to go catch it herself if she's interested, leaving her completely speechless. But the monster isn't waiting for a dinner debate. With a terrifying screech, it lunges straight for them. The guards immediately start to panic. Melina desperately screams Ketal's name for help. But Ketal doesn't even flinch. He just crosses his arms, saying he'll only step in if there's real danger. He tells a shocked Melina that her mercs can handle it. He wants to see what these outside world fighters are made of. The slime crashes down on them. The captain immediately shouts for a shield defense. A soldier gets his shield up just in time, bracing for the full force of the monster's charge. But it's not enough. The impact is insane, and the soldier gets sent flying backwards. Another warrior goes for a direct axe attack. He's also thrown back like a ragdoll, his weapon doing 0 damage. The leader thinks fast. He shouts that the slimes only move in straight lines. They need to scatter and coordinate their attacks. And it works. A spearman uses his weapon to vault right over the beast, landing a clean strike on its side. The monster shrieks in pain. The warrior sees his chance, channels energy into his spear, and lands an even bigger hit. With the slime staggering, the captain charges in with his own glowing sword. He yells for his men to press the attack. He shouts out its weak point, a hidden core. Powering up his blade, he unleashes a massive downward slash. It's a perfect hit. The attack shatters the red crystal core, and the monster starts to dissolve. Victory! The mercenaries erupt in cheers. But check out Keto, he just watches, completely unimpressed. The next challenge comes. Now it's a pack of giant wolves. One of the mercs gets cocky. He says maybe the rumors about this place were overblown. The captain immediately shuts him down. He warns the guy they are not even halfway there yet. Meanwhile, some of the mercs start whispering. They're getting suspicious of Keto, calling him a freeloader and wanting to test him. One of the mercs breaks off from the group. He walks right up to Melina, saying they need to talk. He reminds her they are risking their lives for this job. She gratefully agrees, saying they were the only ones brave enough. But there's one big problem he cannot ignore. The so-called barbarian Kettle has not lifted a single finger to help. So he formally asks for permission to test Keto's skills. He wants to see if he deserves his special treatment. Melina looks totally stunned as the mercenary captain explains the situation. He sighs, admitting he tried to stop his men, but they just would not listen. But Ketel just smirks, totally unfazed by the threat. So you want to test me? Fine by me. But not right now. The merc is completely caught off guard. Ketel just looks up past them, axe in hand. Looks like you'll have to get in line. We've got company. Suddenly, a chilling presence looms over them all. A deep voice echoes. The frail mortals have arrived. The voice continues its creepy monologue. Looks like I'll be enjoying a rare delicacy today. Then, a massive white serpent erupts from the snow. It roars at them. Bark for me, mortals. Struggle all you want. It will only make you taste better. Melina lets out a piercing scream. The guards are doing everything they can to withstand the monster's power. But a commanding voice cuts right through the chaos. Enough. It's Kittle, and he looks seriously ticked off. He declares they're his guests, ordering the attacker to stand down. Why are you here? The snake hisses. Has he forgotten the laws of the land? He's way outside his tribe's territory. Kittle fires back that it's none of its business. This, of course, only makes the giant snake even angrier. With a massive surge of power, the creature reveals its true form, roaring. I am the snake. How dare you give orders to someone who was promised immutability? Kittle has heard enough. Then you need to be taught a lesson, he says, before throwing a punch that unleashes a devastating shockwave. The blast slams directly into the giant snake and creates a mushroom cloud of crackling blue energy. The sheer force of the impact is insane, sending the other barbarians flying backwards. Melina is knocked clean off her feet as one of her men screams her name in a total panic. When it's over, the snake's head is just a bloody mess in the snow. Kittle coldly remarks, "You're the type who only listens after a beating." Melina can only stare, completely stunned by the display of power. Lord Kittle, she whispers in disbelief. With his eyes now glowing a menacing purple, Kittle tells her he'll be right there after he finishes cleaning up the trash. He stomps the ground, shattering it with dark energy, then launches himself forward with blinding speed. Another massive explosion rocks the plains. A few minutes later, Melina and the butler are shocked. The mercs are now begging Kittle for forgiveness. Inside the warm carriage, Kittle is surprisingly calm. He tells them he understands not trusting a total stranger. The journey continues and somehow the butler has been kicked outside. Poor guy. Kittle turns to Melina, his expression dead serious. That said, there is something I am curious about. He asks why a noble lady like her would personally risk her life on such a dangerous trade mission. She hesitates for a moment, then admits she's the daughter of a concubine, basically the second wife of Lord Akasha. She explains that her mother was used in a political marriage and then totally abandoned, left with zero power. Clenching her fist, she confesses they're treated like servants. They're basically family in name only. I volunteered for this trade mission, she declares, which clearly catches Kittle completely off guard. Her reason is simple but powerful. Because someone has to set an example. A small smirk plays on Kittle's lips. He calls her intelligent, ambitious, and a greedy one. Melina is totally floored by his words. But before she can respond, a sudden jolt from the carriage interrupts her. A voice calls out that they've finally arrived. Stepping outside, her men just gasp in total awe. The endless blizzard has completely vanished, replaced by a vibrant, lush green valley stretching out before them. After thanking Kittle, Melina says her trip back will be easy, since she won't be packing weapons after selling the goods. But she can't let his earlier comment go. She turns and asks what he meant by calling her ambitious. He says he meant exactly what he said. He knows her once powerful family is now on the brink of financial ruin. He connects all the dots. If she succeeds where the main family fails, she'll win everyone's loyalty. He asks, "Your goal is to seize control of your family, isn't it?" She admits he's right. Kittle just smirks, noting that the story of a cast-off heir rising to power is a classic. Melina is shocked. This barbarian is genuinely smart. He's way more clever than anyone she has ever met. Thinking of the incredible power he has, an idea sparks in her mind. She asks if he's ever thought about leaving the snowfields. "How would you like to join me?" she asks boldly. He turns her down for now, saying he still has things he needs to take care of. Melina gracefully accepts his answer. She then removes an ornate emblem from her neck, offering it to him as a token of their meeting. She tells him to show it to the Akasha family if he ever decides to come to the outside world. Kittle accepts the gift with a huge grin. They part ways, hoping they'll meet again someday. He watches as her carriage disappears into the lush valley, leaving the endless snow behind. 5 years pass and back in the endless land of snow, a declaration is made. Finally, all conditions have been met. A series of system notifications suddenly pop up, confirming a quest is complete and the rewards have been distributed. And then the message he has been waiting for finally appears. You may now leave the snowfields. Kittle stands at the edge of the snowy wasteland, ready to finally step into the fantasy world of his dreams. With a confident smirk, Kittle looks ahead, totally ready for a new beginning. It's time to take his first step into the fantasy world. In a vibrant green forest, Kittle takes a huge breath. He's finally savoring the sense of a new world. The smell of grass, wild beasts, and fresh river water, it's a world away from the frozen wasteland he escaped. He cracks open his eyes, a massive grin spreading across his face. Nice. Very nice. But then, his whole vibe shifts. He whips around, his eyes locking onto a frozen mountain peak in the distance. "You cursed snow! Let's never meet again!" he roars, finally tasting freedom. This is the fantasy world he's always dreamed of. A land of pure wonder he thought was impossible to reach. The journey here was a total nightmare, but he survived. And now, he's going to enjoy this world to the absolute fullest. I'm talking magic, swords, dragons, and elves. The whole fantasy package. That burning desire for a new life was the only thing that kept him going. Back in the snowy plains, just wanting to survive was never enough. As he wanders through this paradise, something shimmering in the distance catches his eye. That glow. It's gotta be a village. Finally, civilization. Bro is absolutely ecstatic. Finally, a civilized village in this world. He flashes back to trying to talk with the barbarians back home. They just stared at him like he was speaking gibberish. Man, he misses actual conversation. He starts rehearsing his intro. Should he go with a simple hello? Or the classic ice guy? What world is this? He decides to just play it cool and be a gentleman. With a plan in mind, he starts sprinting towards the lights. Meanwhile, in a peaceful clearing, an elderly elf addresses his people. "Elf villagers," he declares. "From now on, this will be our home." The entire crowd of elves erupts in cheers. They're overjoyed to finally have a new place to call their own. But one of the younger elves isn't so sure. He approaches the elder, looking worried. "Elder, is this place really safe?" The elder shoots him a confident look. "It is." But the young elf isn't convinced. "I know humans can't come here, however. The snowy plains are right there. It's way too close. What about the monsters that live there?" The elder just scoffs. "Not a problem. For thousands of years, nothing has ever crossed those plains. Besides, we put up a barrier just in case." He explains it's a powerful barrier, woven from ancient elven magic. It completely hides their presence and stops anyone from getting close. And even if something did get through, he adds, it wouldn't matter. Because we have Her Majesty the Queen. He smiles, totally certain that no threat could ever possibly reach their village. He is about to be proven very, very wrong. Right on cue, Kettle walks forward and feels his hand pass through something strange. It felt like tearing a piece of fabric. He pauses, totally confused. Felt like something just tore. Did I touch something? He just shrugs it off and keeps moving. But then a sudden sound makes him freeze in his tracks. Peeking through the grass, he spots a small child with pointed ears. Wait, is that an elf? He absolutely can't believe his eyes. A real elf. One of the most iconic fantasy races ever. He never dreamed he'd meet one this fast. Talk about incredible luck. For the first time, he's truly glad to be alive. But the little elf child is completely lost and on the verge of tears. "I'm scared. I think I wandered too far." Suddenly, she hears a voice right behind her. Her eyes go wide with pure shock. Kettle is looming over her, his massive frame casting a terrifying shadow. All he says is a friendly, "Hello?" The poor girl is completely petrified by the sight of him. And then she just faints from the sheer terror. Kettle just stands there, holding the unconscious child. A single bead of sweat rolls down his face. What just happened? I didn't even get to say anything, and she fainted. He thinks. Well, I guess I should probably take her back to the village. He's already picturing the scene. He returns the lost child, and the grateful elves welcome him as a hero. He smiles to himself, already looking forward to that warm welcome. Cradling the sleeping child in his arms, he confidently walks into the elven settlement. The welcome he gets is not what he expected. The elves start screaming in absolute terror. "A human, and he is my child." Instantly, spears are pointed right at his face. They demand to know who he is and how he shattered their barrier. Yeah, this is not going as planned. The child's mother screams in pure horror, her face a mask of absolute fear. The elder is in total shock. Impossible. This land is untouched by humans. The barrier was perfect. How did he get in? He realizes the barrier is cracked and starts to panic. He screams for the queen, but she's out on patrol. Of course she is. Kettle tries to explain he's not an enemy, but they're not listening. An elf just screams, "Give back the child, or we'll hunt you down." The elder's mind is racing. Their barrier was ancient magic. No simple trick could have broken it. He comes to the only logical conclusion. This was a prepared attack. The humans must have been tracking them for years. Kettle is just baffled. Do I really look like a kidnapper? He knows he needs to clear this up, and fast. Just then, the little girl in his arms starts to wake up from her stress nap. He gently places her on the ground. "Go on," he says with a kind smile. "Go back to your family." The child looks up at his kind face, and her brain immediately registers him as a terrifying shadowy demon. So naturally she lets out a blood-curdling scream and sprints back towards her parents. Kettle is completely crushed. Is my face really that scary? I thought I looked pretty good back on the plains. He turns back to the elves with his hands up. Look, I returned the child. As you can see, I'm not your enemy. But the elder isn't having it. The hostage is free. Everyone, attack. In perfect unison, the elven archers draw their bows, taking aim at our completely bewildered hero. Fire. A glowing volley of magic arrows rains down from the sky, heading straight for Kettle. And he just stands there, totally dumbfounded. Can they literally not hear me?